Greetings everyone, boys and girls. This is James here speaking, and how's it going? Today is on the Wednesday, which means here is today is looking back for a flashback with some story detailing we won't have to gonna make these the background story, and then I have to be gonna be the likely the interested bit. So his been have to a lot of things have years have took on their Instagram, Facebook, and ROBLOX for all of this, but have a lot of fun with the contact there. Has a few couple of years have it been had years to the generations for the decade, and this was a fact that the factors which is where of it is discovery, which I have to seen the attractions, the American Independent Games Development Studios, that they call it the Mount King Studios. The company is known for develop and publishing on their the games marketing that's North American and the worldwide is on it. So what will the James will be starting the contributions of Mount King Studios as where I was getting started. I worked up on production contributions of Mount King Studios. So let's get ahead to telling you the backstories. For background stories, the storyteller that will be called like how James will be starting with production contribution of Mount King Studios. So let's get in and introduce myself. So I gotta have to tell you this. Back then, when I was a kid, I was 6 and 7 years old, and I logged in onto the first computers and the bought by my James family's his mom's dad, and subsequent James' sister. Then I discovered to on Mount King Studios website since back in 2006, and I downloaded and played onto demo version of the Demon Star game series, which the Demon Star first installment is only one of the titles for the 2D top-down space shooter, and I managed to play them still looking for detail it that the 2D and 3D sprite this movement, and it kind of reminds like Rayton's game series for Japanese arcade shooter games. Then after that I beat him for 6 levels. It also is repeat, get this loops endlessly and loops over it again. And the others of the games were of it's discovered like Galactics, Raptor Club the Shadow, Juno Nemesis, Hypertron, Sammy 3D Gold, and the others that were like the other games like likely Swamp Rampage, Swamp Assault, Space Shooters, and the 3D Asteroid Impact, the shooting around the actions for action games. The shooting is as the first person shooter since they've been made for around for the 2000. That is absolutely really good one. So I've been had the tracked on contactants to Scott Host, and what we have to thought with feelings that frequency is our favorite games to do, like a Demon Star, Raptor, Galactics. This includes Swarm Rampage, Swarm Assault, Hypertron, and the Excavators 3D, the asteroid things, and either like Hypertron. Also, the Treasure Fall which is obviously is pretty good. Well, the Treasure Fall is logical action puzzle games. It's pretty good thing as well. Then after that, I play around for 100,000 times. So that's why I was did play many times of other of Mountain King Studio games, and just because I really just became like popular cultures, locals and the internet, where I've talking about Mountain King Studio games to frequently just took on the internet and the social media that does include. And the Scott host, they even have the sorting on the James gaming videos, the gaming channels, which as he was like interest that thought that I really have the big dreams true is what predicted to be as Honorable Bond's childhood, and to all those things where the knowledge is what always said the old classic, the old school classic style for independent games, the independent computer games homage that they would have to put their inspiration for the Japanese arcade and American arcade games, like old school arcade games, something like that. And there was something that obscures the old one files is where I was discovered collecting these was treasured, and this was might have the researcher and the archive which is have the Mountain King Studio related to be. It's quite bit simply the older ones and the newer ones for the generations for the private years. Part of the times as I was a part of the hobbies for the playing the computer games and the video games, and since I have a PlayStation 1 and 2, and during the have the real life the section of the course, and I went to school, and the grades up to I was grew up the ages and ages, and after it's for the teenager, the teenagehood, and it's just cheaper have a device then, and word shipping to the Mountain King Studio, and I was just one of fantastic and the big fans of them. One of them's favorite games that's all the time for Raptor, Demon Star Galactics, and the other games titles. And thus I was assigned agreemently with the Scott host and to connect to contact them. And since this is where I joined on Mountain King Studio for first time, as I was introduced to James, which is I was roles like system administrators, graphic art design, traditional artists, and even like arts and animation, which I also have to has to introduce. That's arts and animation career. Since I realized I looked over the cartoon and Japanese anime for 1,000 watchings every single overlooked the television and mobile device and desktop the internet since I was a teenagehood, because it's such a beloved with the friends, talk to them online, and always has been to be based around the Southeast Asia and Thailand and Japan, and always have good things amount of the personal the personal of it, the good things of professional speeches and the professional social media to post every single on topic, and we're just locking on to the Discord on social media, the local spread Discord on social media, and I have the contacted with Scott host, and he was one of the greatest legend talents of games designers, a programmer, and who did Demon Star, Raptor as a Galactic, and I introduced myself and I would do the production contributions of personal project, and picking up that these was a small team and looking like interests, and I have to, and I have announced been relationships with I was a good friends of Scott host to them together, and the others developer the JDS games, the asteroid shooting games, that who he's the close following friends about me, like just talk about the asteroid astro 3D archive gamings and gamer groups with a smaller of a teams amount of the members, so I'll just surround them. Then there was the afterward. I grew up the young adulthood, and I starting on to arts contributions of a King Studios. The traditional arts that thinking to do are basically that I did on to pop cultures on internet and social media platforms. Since I did on the artworks on traditional art for the King Studios on the pages and social media platforms. There is also a Scott host going to be programmed to Raptor Call of the Shadows remix it, and he needs funds and he needs to Patreons, as I always have the need to the budget, just running it help by crew members and the entire teams of Patreon, Knights, Lords, Guardians, and something like that. And I introduced the contributions for first thing it to be as a modern age, and I have to be to develop to the James Media King Studio universe, since this is how I for the kickstarting, and I have the bit to the running as a Scott host and running as with the small teams at every single personally, and I talk to our sets of friends here with the shows of the James Media as a whole I've made, and a few notes to at the section. They have I have been planned on production design, which is going to be the fully developed in handling the remix, the moderns of a whole brand new gaming and the related medias of the like animations movie and the storytelling, the talents like Galactic Ultra, Raptor Ultra, and introduce the Demon Star Ultra as a fully has a developer the 3D worlds of the blasting through the monitors the big screen. And I think that I hear it about it that I gotta have to takes up as a picking up the personal the biggest project, and it needs the funds for the big budgets for the making money makers that run into it, and it needs a small team and a contribution crew and one or two to make the remakes of Galactic Raptor and Demon Star, and thus but it includes for the picking up like RPG style space shooter stuff and sci-fi stuff, and includes a James Media stuff like Interstellar, Laser Fantasy into Cube Quest. So that's what I really did the spacey background arts did it before. So for previous years and the last years. And that's what I was starting at. I worked with the production contribution of a King Studio. It's based in Chicago of United States, and I have my good friends usual the Scott host, and he's been working at the development hypes times of Raptor Call of the Shadow remix, and he needs the funds, he needs the budget, so needs some money, and he finds their friends like interest designer, programmer, artist, level design, game tech, engineering, like that. And I really introduced myself at the connections for Thailand and the United States as well. So that's what I've been starting. That's what I have at how the James started the production contribution, and I am on production contribution of with King Studios. so this year. And make sure you have to looking for detail and information that's gonna post it on the topics talking about Demon Star Ultra. Will be at the production designs is upon it very soon. So looking at like interest, had to find that there's a money maker, and they're gonna need to something to find a way to big studios way better. So that's all pretty much is gonna talking about it. And make sure you have to like, share, subscribe our personal channel if you want have to see. And if you're looking for a Scott host the Discord server, and right onto the Patreon and join to the Discord server, down in here, and to put the link to the description. That's right here. So I was a part of it, working on it, and I have a contact to Scott host is doing well, and he's been busy and he's been programming, and he's on to live streaming as well. So that's all pretty much to say, and I hope you see you around for the next videos. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you around for the next Chronopolis hours at the weekend. And as always, I'll see you next time. Later. Have a good day, boys and girls.